Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Secretary sir, Principal ma'am.
I'm in.
Yes,
Dr.
sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Balak.
Sir. Okay, start. Mamta and Abhinaya. Let's start.
Good morning, one and all present here. The even pleasure to welcome participants from various colleges. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. The Department of English, G.Venkataswamy Naidu College, Kovilpatti, in collaboration with University Grant Commission, we are glad to organize the national level webinar on the psychosocial impact during pandemic. Deliver a lecture by Dr.X.ANITA ARUL, Assistant Professor of English, Pasumpon Muthuramalinga Thevar College of Arts and Science, Sankarankovil. If the sign of our heart says welcome, the love will come pouring in from everywhere. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Mamta to welcome our chief guest.
Good morning, one and all. Our Honorable Chief Guest, esteemed Secretary, respected Principal, energetic Director, dynamic staff members, participants of students, other colleges, and my dear lovable friends. At the outset, I extend my warm welcome to our Chief Guest, Dr.X. Anita Arul, Assistant Professor of English, Pasumpon Muthuramalinga Thevar College of Arts and Science, Sankarankovil. I have to express my heartfelt welcome to our Secretary, Dr. Mahindran sir, the Principal, Dr. Enna Shanti Mageshwari ma'am, the Director G.Venkataswamy sir, our Head of the Department G. Kameshwari ma'am, and the Organizing Secretary M Balakrishnan sir, Assistant Professor of English, for providing all possible help for organizing this webinar. My special welcome to the staff members and students from various institutions for joining us in this memorable occasion. Finally, I am happy to welcome respected staff members, my dear friends, for helping us in organizing this event. I am fully confident that this event will mark an ever memorable program in the history of our department. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamta. I request our Honorable Secretary, Dr. P. Mahendran, for deliver few words.
Okay. Uh, Good morning to all. The distinguished resource person, Dr. Anita Arul, respected Principal, Director, Organizing Secretary, Head of the Department of English, all the staff members of the English Department, the Organizing Committee as a whole, and all the heads of the departments of the G.Venk College, research scholars, and all lovable student friends, and all the participants from the outside institutions. I extend a warm welcome to this webinar. At the outset, let me also thank the resource person for having consented to deliver the webinar on psychosocial impact during pandemic. The topic, if you look at the topic, it's very vibrant. The pandemic, the term pandemic, when the impact is globally seen, I think that the pandemic word is preferred. As a macro level, each and every living organism, especially human being, gets affected due to this COVID, I think. So everywhere this impact prevailing. As an individual, when we are born with bliss. That bliss, inner happiness, is being lost. Of course, we are embodied with the inner happiness, but due to many factors, we tend to lose that happiness. Maybe that happiness, I mean, that reasons might be both internal and external, I believe, which is known as psychological and social. Yes, we tend to identify with others. We try to imitate. We try to observe good and bad and try to follow through in our way we go. So that impact which falls on us, we try to have our own way of expressing. In such these conditions, we tend to tend to have the need. We try to meet out the needs, the basic needs. These situations like this pandemic, Corona, COVID pandemic, has shattered the livelihood of every human being. We could not even meet out the basic primary need. Definitely, when you could not meet out the primary need, we'll be losing our psychological balance. I know that not only the individual, the psychological balance is being lost, but as a whole, this has been percolated through across the society. So there is social impact, and it was very much implicit, and I strongly believe that our resource person will significantly throw more light on this topic. And of course, in order to maintain a balance, we'll have to learn to live to the present conditions. With these few words, I thank the resource person, Dr. Anita Arul, for her presence and for looking forward to present to her expert lecture. Thank you all. Thank you, the Opening Secretary, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Over to the admin.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to welcome Dr. Enna Shanti Maheshwari, Principal of our college, for deliver few words.
Thank you. Respected Secretary Dr. P. Mahindran and beloved Director Dr. G.Venkataswamy, Honorable Chief Guest Dr. X.ANITA ARUL, Assistant Professor of English, Pasumpon Muthuramalinga Thevar College of Arts and Science, Sankarankovil, and Mrs. G. Kamesari, Head of the Department of English, and Organizing Secretary Mr. M Balakrishnan, Department of English, GVN College, and my dear participants. Very good morning to all. First of all, I congratulate the organizers of this national level webinar on psychosocial impact during pandemic. As the coronavirus pandemic rapidly sweeps across the world, it is inducing a considerable degree of fear, worry, and concern in the population at large, and among certain groups in particular, such as older adults, care providers, and people with underlying health conditions. Especially quarantine and its effects on many people's usual activities, routines, or livelihood level of loneliness, depression, harmful alcohol and drug use, or suicidal behavior are also expected to rise. Many families are experiencing an ongoing pervasive sense of loss. Example, loss of social networks, job, financial security, and security, and threatened loss of loved ones. This has impacted the quality of relationship among parents, children, and siblings. Thus, psychological and social preparedness of this pandemic carries global importance of COVID-19 pandemic has clearly shown us realize that the greatest assets of mankind are health, peace, love, and solidarity and knowledge. I hope that this webinar will provide a correct picture of psychosocial impact during pandemic. Enjoy it. I wish this program grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I call upon Mr. M Balakrishnan, Assistant Professor of English Department, to deliver a chief guest address.
Thank you, Mamta. Good morning to all. It gives me immense pleasure to be here with you all in this wonderful occasion. I welcome you all on behalf of the Department of English, G.Venkataswamy Naidu College, Kovilpatti, for the national level webinar on the psychosocial impact during pandemic, organized in collaboration with University Grand Commission. I am honored and privileged to introduce the chief guest of this program, Dr. Anita Arul.
Not audible.
Signal issue, sir. Mamta, you can continue, Mamta. Sir will join.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. If you have any queries during presentation, please type into a query box in your Google Meet control panel or in YouTube live chat. I will sum them up and we will discuss them at the end of the section. Now, without further ado, we will turn over to our chief guest, Dr.X. Anita Arul, Assistant Professor of English, to start the session.
I thank Almighty for the great opportunity that is given. Before I begin or enter into the session, I wish to register here my sincere thankfulness to Dr. P. Mahindran, Secretary of this college, and Dr. Shanti Maheshwari, Principal of this college, and Dr. G. Venkataswamy, Director of this college, and Mrs. G. Kameshwari, Head and Department of English, and Organizing Secretary, Mr. M Balakrishnan, for giving me this wonderful platform to share my ideas related with psychosocial impact during pandemic. I wish to share the screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. Yeah. Life is not a problem to be solved, but reality to be experienced, as we all know. Most of the world was crippled now with the COVID pandemic in 2020. Severe lockdowns were imposed, leading to a situation where work from home became the norm for both women and men. Massive economic losses following these strict lockdowns across the world saw a number of job cuts. So the ramifications the pandemic has had on people's livelihood was unimaginable. Think for a while before we enter. What about our mindset? How are we going to face the situations? Are we ready for a change? So far, what have we contributed to the society? Have we helped anyone to come out of depression? What kind of lessons we have drawn out of this pandemic? Are we respectful towards nature? Just think where we are at present. We are responsible as professors. We must think. You know, like physical health, mental health is also very important for each and every individual. Mental health is also a total aspect of personality, total personality. So it must be in a balanced way. Here is a tripod which shows health is a function of heredity, environment, and individual style. So when there is disequilibrium of this balance, this will lead to maladjustment, behavioral disorders, and mental illness. Each person in everyday life must be dealt with strain, depression, or unpleasant situation in life. These psychological symptoms lead an individual a way to escape. They just want to escape out of this tension and release the pain and depression. This is called as escapism. So when we take the history of escapism, it began as a result of society's depression after World War I. So here, heredity, environment, individual lifestyle. Bodies, if we take heredity, the body structure matters a lot, and physical vulnerability, gene mutation, inheritance. And we consider environment, sanitation, hygiene, infections, workload, pollution. And when we take into consideration the individual lifestyle, attitude, values, interests, dietary habits, malnutrition, stress, all these matters a lot. And a mentally, okay, then how should be a mentally healthy person to be? One who possesses a good mode of living, knowing self, socially adaptable. Flexibility must be there within a person so that it shows that he is mentally good, emotionally matured and stable, harmony with socially approved goals, insight into his own goals, sense of belongingness and loyalty must be there, enthusiastic and reasonable. If a person possesses all these things, we can call them that he is mentally healthy person. So my structure of the talk is going to be in such a way: pandemic and psychosocial impact. Next one, what is the shield or the mechanism that we are going to use, that are used? Why do we use mechanisms? This is going to be my structure of talk. Yeah, as we all know, every 100 years have to deal with a new challenge. The world has to. Pandemic have been there in time immemorial. Plague and so many calamities were there. Everybody have been witnessed about. That there is no real medicine for that. I could even say that no medicines could in fact help supernatural origin of pandemics. We have to say in such a way, right? Going by the cycle of events, one tends to believe this might be a pattern scripted by God. A pandemic devastates the whole world every century, and now coronavirus is guarded by destiny in this cycle. First, the Black Death, as we all know, in 1720, the world was plagued by this pandemic. It was deadliest. The Black Death was it was recorded in human history as the deadliest one. The Trump that pays victims individually, as we have seen now with the second wave also. And they had to resort to mass burial. This happened in 1720. And in 1820, cholera. It spread so fast, and in 1820 in Kolkata, in West Bengal, India, was the first place that detected the presence of this disease. It was most affected with the death toll that touched over 1 lakh people. Next, in 1920, Spanish flu. It claimed a maximum number of lives. The very mention of this flu would it sends spine, shivers down the spine in 1920. That much deadly this was. Approximately crores of people died in the Spanish flu. It spreads across the world, and it claimed a maximum number of, as we have seen. Now, coronavirus. It sets the question in our mind: will history repeat itself? 100 years after the Spanish flu, the world is now reeling under coronavirus scare. It's 100 years, we are witnessing a great pandemic. There is a thought that in everyone's mind, that it is the pandemic scripted for 2020. Is it so? The dark nights have begun where? In China. And the fatal virus has set foot in Indian soil and the rest of the world also. People are really petrified. The government officials, health experts all around the world are really battling to put an end to this virus. And what may be the reason? Because the nature has been contaminated, all the hills has been looted, climate change. Now generations of people are sitting at home. see the pathetic situation. People are more scared of science than of God. Yeah, nature is speaking to man. Don't be selfish. Selfishness is the greatest curse of the human race. That is what nature is warning us. Here we are now. Our present is this. Hundreds of people in India died gasping for breath across states due to oxygen shortage during the month of, as we all know, April, May, when the second wave of coronavirus was at its peak. Uncounted phases, death upon death, pain upon pain. Here we are now. You know, during pandemic, the infectious outbreak or these fear and suspicion, stigmatization and moralization, community response. You know, we can see so many of the national mournings have become personal mourning in the second wave of coronavirus. Fear at the very beginning of this new epidemic or the pandemic, when so much was unknown and the virus was confined to Wuhan province in China, it was in people's imagination that it might or might not reach our land or our shores. We are far away from that. As the number of cases increased, the illness started to spike the people. So did public anxiety, which is largely fueled because of obsession with the new habits, of frequent washing hands and keeping the distance from others to avoid sneezing and coughing, started maintaining distance. There is also a sudden interrupt in social empathy, that usually comes by shaking hands. Everybody stop that. People start developing a compulsive fear that the virus may be transmitted through any number of routes. So this leads in some people to irrational phobic feeling that suspects the whole environment. The complete thing has been changed in the society. The swift rise of the fear and anxiety among people due to the uncertainty of the disease can lead to significant psychological and psychiatric disturbances, which is not an easy thing, such as post-traumatic disorder, depression, anxiety, panic disorders, and behavioral disorders. So what happened? People started staying away from family. Loneliness occupies their mind. Misinformation on social media, financial insecurity, and stigmatization. All these happen. And not happening, I'm saying, epidemic of stigmatization. So what is stigmatization? When we say the second social epidemic related to stigmatization and moralization, all right, stigma and xenophobia are the two aspects that really kill the people, of the societal impact of pandemic infectious outbreaks, which is very severe than the pandemic. It is highly associated with psychosocial epidemic of fear and suspicions too. It is a kind of behavioral immune system, okay? We call this stigmatization, fight against the disease and not the people, the counter movement. Pandemic paves way for othering. Mounting cases of prejudices can be seen. Actually, it is based on the idea that our biological immune system is not sufficient to help us avoid infections. So, because we cannot see with our own eyes things like microbes or virus or bacteria. So this behavioral immune system that enables us to, it's like a psychological system that enables us to detect pathogens by looking at cues. So stigmatization is a behavioral immune system, but it must be against the disease and not against the people. So we can see right now that this behavioral immune system is focused as the fear for other people, fear for races, immigrants. These things started cropping up. Okay, racial discrimination have come to the fore, and this is the biological immune system. Okay, so when it fails to recognize, we use the other thing. All right, behavioral immune system, and this is the behavioral immune system. We say no, don't touch, stay away, all these things. You know, racial discrimination also come to the fore because of this. It's heartbreaking. With this outbreak, you know, this is which originated in Wuhan. There was an upsurge, you know, in stigmatization, avoidance, and fear and harassment towards the people, even of, especially of Chinese ancestry and Asian descendants in general. Some Chinese students in the USA, you know, were asked to go back to their place, to the infected country. They just use this word. And many Asians are reported to be targets of xenophobia and racism related to coronavirus in so many various parts of the world. It is not an acceptable one, right? Virus, you know, actually, virus do not discriminate, to be frank. Neither should we also stigmatizing China politically by calling where the virus was, you know, virus started spreading all over the world. You know, they told that, who has told that you should not blame that Chinese were the cause for the pandemic? And it was rejected by human rights organization also. And when we take the health workers, people show a kind of stigma against health workers also. When our neighbor is from medical field, what happened? We are not ready to cross their home. We take some other route to reach our home. We should not do like that, actually. This is not a welcomable act. And also we have to stop pointing. This is not correct. She has coronavirus. Stop racism. All right. And moralization. Some say this is a judgment from God, and this is a punishment for all your sins. So stories from the field, we can see migrant exodus. No society's reaction. This was actually by a famous, very popular, one minute. This is by a very popular controversial journalist, Barkadat. She says that, I set out to cover a pandemic, but what I saw was a humanitarian crisis on an unprecedented scale. I come from a partition family, so I grew up listening to stories of hardship and migration from my parents, but I never once thought I would see it with my own eyes. A very powerful registration here. You know, migrant workers are the most pathetic. No work, thrown by the tenant. If they are infected, they are not allowed to come home. Even their own family members are not accepting them to enter into the home. So, you know, when we take Gujarat, Rajasthan, and in all those places, the people are not allowed to enter into the village even. They spend their whole day and night at the top of the tree. Why at the top of the tree? If they come down, they'll give them severe beatings, which was really horrible. So this happened for the migrant exodus. And here I wish to share a video.
1 a.m. literally middle of the night, and as we drive through the area of Regression in Kovilpatti, everything is deathly quiet. We are following this route, making our way slowly to Mumbai, but suddenly we hear the sound of a child crying in the distance, his anguish abruptly breaking the stillness of the night. We stop, and this is what we see. Children, women, men in the middle of this interior village making their way home on foot.
It is past 1 a.m. and we were driving through this absolutely deserted stretch of road in the area of Bhiwandi in Maharashtra, when suddenly the darkness of the night was broken by the sight of these migrant workers, many little children among them, walking at this time, literally in the middle of the night. And we are now running to catch up with them. But you can see how many little children there are here. And let me just try and speak to...
Yeah, this is, what we have seen is heartbreaking. So what is the psychosocial impact? Many social death than biological death. White and black people opposition exaggerated. Migrant laborers cannot see any occupational achievement during this time. Disposable lives. Who has to be disposed? Helplessness, social isolation, mental health issues, identity crisis, unable to extend the normal social courtesies. Doctors turn hot and cold when they saw COVID patients. This is the impact in the society. What about children? The most affected are the children. They miss the touch of their parents, especially the frontline workers. Cognitive development delays because of this. Serotonin deficiency, which helps in the well-being and happiness, is associated with the symptoms of depression and suicidal behavior because of lack of positive touch. And what about women? Actually, women, an invincible model of the social system, mirror the universal lively pattern of life. They are the accomplished power, strengthened out of their own inbuilt energy. And, they empower themselves. Breakfast time, lunch time, tea time, dinner time are made delightful and become the most favorites during lockdown. It is made so incredible because of the women in the family. Each and every activity has made magical with the touch of women in the family. Some traditional unnoticed setup is given importance now within the family during lockdown, especially as grandma's unnoticed part has been recognized by the younger generation. Women with unstoppable passion run all through their life, seeking peace and contentment. They are the perfect motivators, I can say. Manage things in an orderly form. They empower themselves even from a discomfited situation or a worse part of the life. They tend, tremendous support they lend to the people, to the whole family, directly or indirectly. Women with uncertain agony stands like pillars who told the whole regularity of the family, society, working environment are in balance because of them. Women are regarded to be the dynamic personality. As I told you, they are the perfect motivators who withstands greater storms in life. They are like leaping leopards which possess the ability of adaptations. But now, what is the reality? They face criticisms. It's your fault and your fault of thinking. Women consider themselves as an empowered being and accept those criticism and transformed into a constructive mode. The pressures which the family members undergo are laid upon women's back. The stereotype family framework is such that it expects women to be at the side, showing concern with everyone in the family, no matter how damaged she is mentally and physically. They are expected to roam around with a need to belong, how much they are pushed away, no matter what. The lockdown doesn't provide them the time to rebuild, I can say. They are not given space. The little space which they got in their family is lost now. They are not given space to go to the next level of the social event. It is like exploiting her mobility. Apart from household worries, work pressure, abusiveness, psychological pressures, and responsibilities, they are labeled as marginalized. They are identified with the inefficiency. They want to study to enrich themselves, but which is not possible right now. They suffer a lot. COVID and gender inequality. It affected the livelihood of women. They experienced pandemic in a different way. They have been craving for this precious time and hope God heard their prayers, and their role is significant when transforms home into a happy fairyland. But now, they experience everything in a different way. They are in domestic work and dropping out from workforce because they are not able to balance both the things, increased in compliance too during lockdown. Women can neither ask the man to do anything nor tell him. That's the reality. Though we may come across many jokes as wife beats the husband and so and so. The previous one is too demanding and the later too bossy, right? So the woman has to be super careful in how she chooses her words. If she wants to get the things to be done, she has to be very careful, even inside the home. That is the reality. All right. So what about the young people? Actually, the new pandemic is a big challenge. And how a society reacts to widespread pandemics, especially to the young people. We as professors, we are in touch with the young people. It is our sole responsibility to create them and reproduce them to the world again after the pandemic. Instability, uncertainty, and crisis in all forms. This pandemic creates a kind of fear, panic, stigmatizing, and calls to action that seems to characterize the immediate reaction, actually. Societies or, worldwide are caught up, extraordinary with the extraordinary emotional storm, and it is beyond anyone's control too. What about young people? They are lonely, depressed, anxious, stressed, worried, hopelessness, jobless, economic hardships, pressure, lack of motivation, sense of irritability. We must, as professors, we must have all these things in our mind when we meet our children back again in the campus. Here you can see the Jack in the Box. During this pandemic, all our repressed material or the feelings, is not really eradicated. It remains in the unconscious. The pains and the sufferings that we are undergoing during the pandemic. The repressed ideas still exert a powerful effect. Again and again, they push. Again and again like this, they push deep from below, fueled by the biological urges that gave rise to them in the first place, or triggered by associations here and there. As these repressed ideas or the feelings, will up again, also bring back anxiety, phobias, guilt, obsessions, and once more pushed down. The result is a never-ending unconscious conflict. This stays in our unconscious mind. We must always keep this in mind when we deal with our children. No matter how resourceful we are, coping up with problems. When our progress is being hurdled or banned by some external force or the other, we find when it is blocked, we may not accept it so easily. We find a way to overcome that, right? So the unpleasant sufferings or threatening situations have to be treated in we must treat that in a healthy way, which is very, very important. Not only we ourselves, but as a responsible teacher, we have to channelize the untold painful moments of our students or the children when they are back. Right. Here, just few questions. Have you blamed others, especially our students? Have you ever heard our students come out with a bundle of excuses? Have you denied anything? Have you ever seen our students being into the tantrum of hero worship? Have you ever tried to help our students come across inferior feeling to come out of it? Have your unwelcomed emotions be transformed onto others? Think. We may deny something. His fault, her fault, their fault, not me, I'm perfect. Have you ever thought that these affect our mental hygiene or our students' mental hygiene when it goes beyond its limit? Yeah. Here are the psychological shields that we use in our day-to-day life. We cannot deny that. No, I will not use. I'm so perfect. I'm not using anything as such. No, we are using denial, regression, displacement, intellectualization, rationalization, sublimation, dissociation, compensation, rejection, repression, reaction formation, identification. These are the psychological shields that we use, not only we, during this pandemic, after post-pandemic period. We may see these kind of shields will be used by our children, the students in the campus. So we must be aware. What kind of weapon you use as a shield in order to keep up your ego? Here we use our psychological shield. This is a kind of defense mechanism. So what is defense mechanism? It is a kind of self-deception. You deceive yourself. You don't accept. You don't show who you are. It is an unconscious process in the mind. They simply change the way the person thinks about it. An alternate type of adaptational strategy is defense mechanism, found in the everyday behavior of normal people. We, in our day-to-day life, we use it. Do not alter the objective conditions of danger. All right, this is defense mechanism. Where we use, how we use. What is the difference? We may say, no, I just, in order to cope up the situation, I just use, I just tell a lie. In order to avoid a very big struggle or a division among friends or something, I just told a very small lie. This may be your answer. We may cope up. Coping and defense. There is a difference. Defense mechanism is a conscious process and coping is an unconscious one. Unconsciously we do, but when we use defense mechanism, we use it very consciously in order to, it can be like wearing a mask. We use it intentionally. Coping, non-intentionally, we just tell it. Just like that. Why late to the college? Bus late. This is the, why you didn't submit the assignment? No power. So this is the thing. And then usage of mechanisms. Actually, when you use the defense mechanism in a proper way or in a normal mode, they increase satisfaction in living. When it is in the dominant mode, the entire personality completely changed and there is a personality maladjustment. Okay, so this shows that we have to use the mechanism, the defense mechanism we can use, but to an extent, and not that it spoils our entire structure, right? So next one, that is displacement is a defense mechanism. In displacement, the minorities are affected, victims, subaltern are affected. In displacement, one particular motive or emotion is turned from its natural object to some other object. Okay. Displaced aggression results in scapegoating. Escape is an individual there, is an innocent subject, okay, where they experience they experience frustration because of that. In literature, kitchen sink drama that which depicts the daily struggles of ordinary people, working class people, angry young protagonists. can come under this category of, they use the defense mechanism displacement. Okay, in simple words, I can say that a person who is very angry with his boss comes home and shout at his wife, because he cannot shout at his boss, right? So he did that. And children used to kick the dog. Why? Because they may not be able to show their anger to the elder sister or the elder brother. So this is displacement. So a student might not get what he needs or craves, and that too in post-pandemic period, with that anger when he comes to the institution, and when someone triggers, he gets angry and show his anger elsewhere. See, only when we are aware of all these defense mechanisms, the psychological shield, we will be able to protect them and help them in every way. All right. So this displacement is used in Look Back in Anger by John Osborne and Harriet O'Neill's. Okay. So it deals with in Look Back in Anger, if we take, it deals with an authentic picture of younger generation in post-World War period. Young men of working class, overeducated and underemployed. His name is Jimmy Potter. Dissatisfied at a world that offers him no social opportunities and a dearth of emotion. Even now the pandemic situation is as such. So he married a lady from upper middle class, Allison. Jimmy thinks that suffering is the only way to experience true human emotion, and that Allison and other upper class people are therefore less alive than he is. They are not alive, according to him. Jimmy insults a family. He used defense mechanism. He was not able to digest the very fact that they are sophisticated, that they are living a very posh life. So Jimmy insults a family and complains that all women are out to destroy men. Always he keeps on scolding her. Jimmy was so angry that he went to the extent of saying that, or even explodes cursing her wife, "I wish you could have a child and it would die." Imagine how the dialogue was it was not, we cannot accept this kind of things, right? So that much of anger he holds. He sarcastically calls her monument to non-attachment. Allison says that she felt like a hostage from those sections, of society that had declared war. So this is the situation. This is the way the displacement defense mechanism is used. And then regression. This is a kind of unconscious backtracking. This means that revision or retreating to a childish level of behavior. Okay, when a problem confronts us, when a person gets a problem, they just go back and act as though they are immature. Instead of facing it in a mature manner, we go back or regress. Okay, an individual creating a scene, insecure feel, daydreaming, sense of failure, overwhelming regret. When they get all these feel, they regress. Okay, so an individual creating a scene, threatening, some people, some children may threaten that I'll leave the home, I'll not eat today, I don't want this food, right? Sometimes they even speak as childish. So this is a kind of regression. This is regression. Okay, why do they do that? Because they have got an insecure feeling. They dream. They experience failure and regretful life they lead. That is thumb sucking. They don't allow, or they may not be unwilling to eat food at the proper time, and crawling into a fetal position, refusing to eat. All these things, the child's behavior manifests, and this shows that these children, this type of students, they suffer out of regression. Due to pandemic, many children have lost their parents here, and there is a possibility that They may find it difficult to cope up with the situation. They may lose speech and social skills too. So it's time to identify and help them to come out of it. It is in our hands. All right. And language regression. They struggle for the language. And when we take regression in Death of a Salesman, you can see, and Gateman's Gift. In Gateman's Gift, Govind Singh, a character, a gatekeeper, an ex-serviceman also. He was, after retirement, he received a pension of 12 rupees. And so his life was really good. And he used to make dolls, fascinating dolls out of clay. And every month when he go to his office to get the pension, he used to present the moral which he did. And one time he did the office, his own office model, and he went there, and that was his masterpiece. And he presented that to the office. And so one fine day he received a registered letter. That was his first registered letter ever in his life. Till his retirement and after his retirement, he haven't received any kind of letters as such. And this was the first registered letter, and he was really afraid to tell to his wife. He feared that as though, they are going to, on seeing his model, they are going to stop the pension that he receives. So he started behaving so madly, while he was walking. As such, he saw a bulb in a tall street light. Okay, it seemed to be the size of a papaya. Okay, as I told, regression, it takes him to the childhood stage. He says on seeing the street light, it had been a long cherished desire in him to fling a stone at it. Okay, all felt in this joyous and free condition. He picked up a pebble and threw it with good aim. That shattering noise of glass was as music to his ears. This was wonderful, right? I like to crack glass papaya fruit. That is all. Okay, this is the people who suffered out of regression, or one who uses this defense mechanism can be identified in this manner. So dissociation. So way of avoiding, stress by feeling detached from the usual sense of body. Overload of stress or trauma. Split personality we have seen in several movies, right? So disconnection between a person's thoughts, memories, feelings of who he or who she is. They forget themselves, right? So they, in a manner, they permit the person to deny their personal responsibility. For unacceptable behavior. This pattern includes amnesia, total inability to recall what had happened, and fugue, defense of actual flight, to the individual wanders away from the home and for years together, and multiple personality, your dissociative reaction to stress. And when you finish reading a good book, we may get a feel, the kind or a way you get sucked into completely. The characters dance around your head. You feel out of place, lightheaded, and detached from your surroundings, right? So, that is dissociation. So coronavirus, we have to be careful. But if we take coronavirus, we say that we have to be careful. But some people ask, how can I be careful without seeing that? That is dissociation, all right? And I can take Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here. Dr. Jekyll is a kind, well-respected and intelligent scientist who meddles with the darker side of science while searching for a way to separate his good self from his bad impulses. He creates a potion that transforms himself into a man without a conscience. And towards the end, what happens? They fight for a dominance over the other. So Hyde commits suicide by drinking poison, declaring that he also killed Jekyll, as they are the same physical being. So what is the therapy for this? To cope with dissociative episodes, try to make the children touch their pain. When you find that they are suffering out of this, touch their pain, pencil, notebook and ask them to write what they can. Try to give them occupational therapy. Just make them feel the things that they have around us, and make them feel the sand. Allow them to walk on rough surfaces. Bring them the focus that they are in reality, and they cannot always live a life in dream. Ask them to focus on the reality. This is how we have to treat. And next one, compensation. This is nothing but counterbalancing of perceived flaws or weaknesses, instead emphasizing strengths. They cover up weaknesses. Some, they don't want to show their weakness, their frustration, desires, feelings of inadequacy or competence in their life. They always want to have compensation for that through the gratification or excellence in some other area. If they are weak in some place or the other, they just want to show their ability in some other area. That is compensation. What these people do, they have a strong and natural tendency to conceal everything. Alright, we have to identify, we must be able to identify the children, those who are using this defense mechanism inside the classroom setup. They strive for superiority. This is a positive compensation, right? Example, you can have Demosthenes, who struggled, the stammering problem has made him a big orator. Narcissist people always use this compensation because they have an excessive fear for aging and death. Fascination, they have a fascination towards fame and a fear of dependency. So in order to avoid that, this defense mechanism, particularly the compensation, will be used by the narcissist people. Narcissism can be seen in the light of compensation because people who are narcissistic, the suppressed feelings of low self-esteem they have by talking highly about themselves. They boast themselves and making contact with persons they admire. This is the quality of the narcissist people. And also in the classroom setup or in the college campus or in the school campus, young men, you can take a boy of a poor athlete maybe. He never gets picked for teams. So how he overcompensates? He concentrates himself in drama club and newspaper activity else. And the one who is inferior in maths class, he overcompensates, and depending on teachers, he depends completely on teacher and for other academic excellence. And let us see a young girl, or a college. Let us take an example of a college girl, expresses feelings of inferiority, maybe because of lack of friends. She sees everywhere her classmates are engaged with, but she compensates for this. She craves for a compensation. How? She says to herself that I may not have many close friends, and she throws herself during doing schoolwork, and he concentrates upon his own work, and she lacks in social communication skills. So there her quality is not identified, and she just want to excel herself in her academic, and she concentrate only on that and lack friends and social connection, no proper communication. She was not able to develop her social skills. So these things happen, and there are so many people we can see in our campus. And next one, how do we know? How do we identify? Lack of generosity, failure to acknowledge others. These people, they pass comments and they don't acknowledge others' work also. This is the way they are. So judgmental behavior, name calling, snobbery. When these people do all these things, we can easily identify that they use the mechanism that is compensation. Next one, denial. Uncomfortable, painful situations of being rejected. Subject may deny the reality of the unpleasant. Immediately, if you ask somebody, if anybody is of, even now we can see, if we ask some people, are you COVID positive? They immediately say no. They don't want to accept. Okay, admit the fact but deny its seriousness. Some may tell, yeah, I do have this problem, but that is not that serious. That is called as minimization. And transference. admit both the fact and seriousness, but deny responsibility. Yeah, I do have this problem, but I'm not responsible for this. Correct? This is denial. And you can see COVID-19 denial, which is pathetic. Daily, we are hearing many stories. There are millions of COVID-19 cases globally, as we know. Yet, there are people who downplay the coronavirus, pandemic, and even deny that it exists. They are not ready to accept it. Healthcare workers have been sharing their frustrations with the deniers who are COVID-19 positive in intensive care even, right? So the health workers are really struggling to make the people understand the seriousness of this COVID-19. And denial can be seen in O. Henry's The Last Leaf. In The Last Leaf, the story centers on Sue and Johnsy, and two young women. They are the two young women artists, right? Johnsy becomes seriously ill due to pneumonia. A doctor visits and tells Sue that Johnsy has 1 in 10 chance to live, and that will be possible only by her hope. Being her very close friend artist, Sue is not ready to accept the fact that that Johnsy is very serious, and she made arrangements to bring her out of sickness. And then denial, you can see in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman and Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie. Due to time constraint, I'm not able to explain deeply in all these things. You can go and refer to it. And then projection. Projection is also another defense mechanism. Okay, it is a kind of self-fulfilling fantasy, blaming others for our problems. When they have the problem, or they may be the reason for that problem, but they'll always blame others. And tendency to force on another person one's own unrealized, frustrated ambition, daydreaming. When you see a child or a student inside the campus with all these things, you can easily find out that they are using the defense mechanism, the projection. Children are the victims of parents' projection. How? Because the father or the mother, they may dream to be a doctor, but as they cannot, they just project their own ideas or their ambitions on their child. And some, they criticize others, that they are, why they criticize others? In order to maintain their own social status and personal worth. Some student, they may cheat in an examination, but when a student says that everyone cheats in an examination, madam, and I could see everyone copying, madam, but the thing is, he too would have done that. So in order to hide that, he uses the defense mechanism, projection. Some may say that no one likes him or her. Instead, the fact is that the child may have, they may come to us and complain. In this class, nobody is accepting me. Nobody is not ready to accept my love or share anything with me. But the real fact will be they have the strong desire, dislike thing for someone. So they put the blame on others as though they are not helping him to survive that. So projection, again, Death of a Salesman, you can see the defense mechanism. Then intellectualization. What is intellectualization? It is a detachment from an emotionally threatening situation by dealing it within an abstract and intellectual form. That is what doctors do, right? They cannot be emotional. They have to be intellectual. When they when they visit the patients and tell about something danger regarding their health or something, they must have to be intellectual rather than being emotional. And in William Shakespeare's King Lear, Cordelia is her answer, reply. What Cordelia says to King Lear, unlike her father, sister, Cordelia is able to differentiate love from property. So Cordelia was also Lear's favorite daughter. So what Cordelia says to King Lear is the answer considered to be an intellectual one. Nothing, my lord, she continues. Unhappy that I am, I cannot heave my heart into my mouth. I love your majesty. According to my bond, no more nor less. This is how she replies so well. And then we are going to deal with rationalization. What is this? This is an interesting defense mechanism that we see every day in our classroom. You know, a boy, one who is late to the school, may say that the clock was slow or breakfast was not ready. These were the excuses they used to give. Why? Because they want to protect their feelings of worth for self-esteem, making excuses for behavior, good reasons for real reasons. Okay, they give good reasons, not real reasons, and we can find that out from the Aesop's fable, the fox and the great story. No, I don't. As the fox was not able to reach it, but what it is? No, it is. It's too sore. That was his reply, right? So the end, and also you can see people, one who didn't get the medical seat, they say that doctor's life is not a life, so I don't prefer it. That is rationalization. People who are jealousy may also use this mechanism. We must be very careful. Okay, one who uses rationalization or as the defense mechanism, those people are jealousy. You know, they may complain about what they have, make sour grapes commands, you know, about the things they crave for. They give excuses. They may also use belittling comments about the person who aroused jealousy. So this is rationalization and how it works. It eases our disappointment when we fail to reach a goal. Okay, I don't want it. That's what I told you. When you want to enter into a respected position in an esteemed institution, when you are denied of that, they just give an excuse. I don't want it anyway. That is what. When they say in such a way, they use the defense mechanism called rationalization. And then it provides us with acceptable motives for our behavior. You know, example, you steal something from a store and tell that because of taking the small pencil from the store, are they going to face any loss? No, that is how they explain or give excuses. And then sublimation is another defense mechanism. This is unfulfilled urges are transformed into socially valued and acceptable activities. When an individual, you know, when an individual is faced with a situation in which he is unable to fulfill his urges or impulses gratified, and hence he feels frustrated there. He might engage himself in substitute activities, okay, which may be easily satisfied. So these substitute activities, it is in no way a mean thing. They select only a valuable and acceptable, socially acceptable activities. So that is sublimation. And in Manju Kapoor's A Married Woman and Difficult Daughters, Asta and Birmati, two characters, or play the, you know, they use the defense mechanism sublimation. And then reaction formation, replacement in consciousness. See, you replace yourself. You literally, I could say that you wear a mask. That is reaction formation. The original impulse still exists, but is glossed over or masked by one that does not cause anxiety. Example, hate is replaced by love. You hate someone, but you talk to them as though you love them the most. That's reaction formation. So here you can, how to know them. That is, they show extravagant showiness, protest too much, compulsiveness will be there, extreme forms of behavior. So Iago in Shakespeare's Othello, Iago was so jealous and he wanted Othello to suffer so bad. Actually, he murdered his wife Desdemona after she told everybody that Iago was behind everything. Othello placed unique trust on, actually he placed this unique trust on Iago. He says, a man he is of honesty and trust. That's what, you know, but Iago hates Othello. That is reaction formation. I follow him to serve, my turn upon, Iago says. A perfect line to show the usage of defense mechanism, that is, and reaction formation. And then use of defense mechanism. Actions based on such defense may not be helpful to attain their goals fully. Is defense mechanism useful? No, it may not help you. The drive may be on and on in order to hide your reality, your real face. That may not be completely tension-free. How come you be free when you tell a lie, right? You cannot be. So, but it offers protection until the person can reach a realistic solution. So it is a kind of protection, that's it. So we have to remember and we have to tell to our children in the classroom, they are more, that is, defense mechanisms are more dangerous and damaging than the disease itself. How strong we must be. That is what we are going to see. Teach them how to come out of this. What we can do? Journal writing, social interaction, make possibilities as potential. Journal writing, it allows you to record your thoughts. It really helps us to come out of depression. Step back and reframe the moment. Just teach the children. Take a second to regain control if you are out of control, if your emotions are out of control. Redirect your feelings, right? Towards a more appropriate stand or a target. Find alternate outlets for this. Teach them. This is a must to be taught in the post-pandemic era. Write down your feelings. Ask them to write down the feelings. Engage in physical exercises. Work out the feelings through a productive hobby. Teach them what hobby is. Not only hearing songs and watching movies. How to. Right? So, why? Because journal writing allows us to start thinking. Thinking leads to productive actions. Thinking is abstract, whereas writing is more concrete. Tell them, make them understand. Writing is a great medicine, a self-healing. We can see R.K. Narayan, the English teacher, for a therapeutic purpose, he has written the novel, right? Anna Frank, her journal was outstanding, extraordinary. It registered the Jewish torture, right? The Hitler's torture on Jewish people. So make them realize the fact or the interesting thing that lies behind journal writing. It takes our mind away from stress, fear, obsession. Let's just teach them. Let us make them a good generation. Social interaction must be there. And what about our part? Now we are into digital readiness, a trap of technocentrism, we can say, right? Preparing, before 3 years or before 5 years or 4 years, we haven't ever thought of all these things. Now, preparing for e-learning using digital learning plans, video conferencing to support online teaching and learning, adding flexibility to curriculum. We are doing that. Global webinars for teachers worldwide during pandemic, innovative online instruction, all these things we are responsible to. Moment of realization. We must realize one thing. We are not mighty creations. Instead, we are at the bottom. We must understand to respect facts and science, not react to really prejudiced and biased actions. As we teachers, we have to be aware of. Sociologically, humans tend to be an altruistic and cooperative species when it comes to survival. Yes, change is essential. It's a must. We cannot handle the students as we have seen before. Now they would have entered into the campus with many issues in their mind. Zillions and zillions of questions might have in their mind. So we must analyze, we must be supportive, we must lift them up. Don't let COVID-19 turn into stigma, right? Which is essential to the society. Society's response to the challenges, an existential threat. Socio-economic apparatus get affected. Yes, we have to accept this. Biological and the cultural form get collapsed completely. Totalitarian regime. Globalization into social distancing. We were talking about globalization and now it has been changed into social distancing. Healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. It means the damage no longer controls your life. Teaching profession is no exception. Know what is expected as a professional. Know how to apply professional ethics in particular cases and issues for the achievement of the organizational goals, for harmonious relationship in the working spark. And if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Refrain from instigating students against other students or colleagues. Inculcate scientific outlook. Assessment only on the basis of merit, not to intentionally or unintentionally expose the student to embarrassment. Provide academic or scholarly assistance and protect their academic freedom. Respect their sentiments. One of the wonderful things that people cooperate when there is natural disaster, we all know. The pandemic and its effects will not be going away within the next few months or years. College students in particular have been overwhelmed by anxiety and depression. Since the start of pandemic, they are the most affected. We need to look inwards, understand and empathize with those who are going through the pain, and be a self-motivator. Don't let minds convince you that your dreams are too big. Keep fighting. As Gayatri Spivak told, human behavior is the best medicine ever. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your mesmerizing speech. Now I would like to call upon Mr. M. Balakrishnan to propose vote of thanks.
It's a warm and cherished morning to our most valued Honorable Chief Guest and Management Committee, staff members and my dear friends. It's my privilege to propose that vote of thanks on today even in this collaboration with the UGC national level webinar and through that psychological impact during pandemic organized by Department of English, GVN College, Kovilpatti. I want to extend my sincere thanks to the today Chief Guest, Dr. Anita Arul, Assistant Professor in English, PMT College, Sankarankovil. Then sorry for some the technical issues. I say a few words about her, ma'am.
Yeah.
Her area specialization is Indian post-colonial literature and ELT and literature and psychology. She has participated in various international, national and seminar conferences. She has been resource person to